Hello and welcome to Spardha Lines, your one-stop destination for the civil services preparation, UPSC, KPSC and other relevant examinations. Today we will try and understand a couple of important articles which are important from both pre as well as mains perspective from GS paper 1, GS paper 2 and GS 3 perspective. Let us try and understand what are these articles. Let's look into the first article. The first article is speaking about special session. What we will try and understand is the concept of special session, why is it being called, and we also have a couple of references to what is called as the India being renamed as Bharat. We will take up all these articles in an elaborate way. The first point that we have to understand is the context. What is the context? We have the Union Minister of Parliamentary Affairs who has announced that a special session would be held from September 18th up until September 22nd, and some of the important agenda items will be part of this special session. Now the question is, what is this special session? Why is it in picture? What is the meaning of special session? Do we have something called a special session defined in the Constitution of India? The answer to this is what we are gonna answer. So the first important parameter is, what does Parliament do? When it comes to the Parliament makes the laws. What does the Parliament do? It conducts its legislative business. So what should it do? In order to conduct its legislative business, it has to meet every now and then. But at the same time, the parliamentarians who have become part of the parliament are representing their constituency. They also have to meet their fellow people as well. They have to understand what the concerns of the people are and ultimately bring these to the parliament so that legislative activities can be conducted. So there are two things that the parliament will have to do. One is, they are acting as the representatives of the people. They have to go back to the people, listen to their concerns and voice out the concerns of the people in the parliament. That is one job. So they have to be with the people in their constituency. But at the same time, they have to attend the parliament as well. So when are they gonna attend the parliament? To voice out the concerns of the people of their constituency. That is what is called as sessions. So there will be three sessions that are in picture when it comes to the parliament. What we will have is the budget session. So when you go back to the 1950s, in 1955, a Lok Sabha committee had proposed a timetable for parliamentary sessions. It recommended that the budget session of the parliament begin on February 1 and go on till May 7, and the monsoon session start on July 15 and end on September 15. The committee also suggested winter session, the last session of the year, commence on November 5 and this will go on till December 22. So in order to voice out the concerns of the people, what we have is a session. A session is a sitting for a consecutive number of days. A sitting can be a one-day sitting or it can be a sitting for about few hours. So what is the difference between a sitting and a session? If the sitting happens for a consecutive number of days, let's say for about 15 days or about 30 days, that becomes the session. So when it comes to the session of the parliament right now, which are the sessions do we have? We have three kinds of session. One is what is called as the budget session, where the idea is to discuss about the budget for that particular year and for the consecutive number of days in that year. So we have the budget session. Then what we have is the monsoon session, which we currently have in place, and this monsoon session usually happens when India has the monsoon. For example, let's say in the month of June, what we have is the monsoon. It is at this particular moment of time that India will have a lot of rainfall as well, and India being a predominantly rainfall country, what we have to do is discuss about what are the programs that needs to be implemented for the greater primary sector of the country. That happens to be the budget session, followed by the monsoon session, where we have the monsoon that strikes our country in the month of June. So then we will also have what is called as the winter session. This winter session predominantly happens in the month of November and December. So what we have is three sessions. And whenever we do not have any of these sessions, an additional session can be called, which is called as the special session. Is the special session defined in the constitution of the country? No. The answer to this is a clear cut no. So from the preliminary examination point of view, do we have the special session defined in the constitution? No, it is not defined in the constitution. This special sitting is called whenever there is a commemoration of an event that can be taken up, or there is a special case, or there is an inauguration. In that case, what we will have is the special session which will be undertaken by the government. Who will decide when these sessions have to be called? We have the Cabinet Committee on the Parliamentary Affairs. It is the Cabinet Committee on the Parliamentary Affairs which defines and decides when a session has to be called. It currently has about 10 ministers, including those from the Defense, Home, Finance, Agriculture, Tribal Affairs, Parliamentary Affairs, and Information and Broadcasting. We also have the Minister of External Affairs, who is acted as a special representative. So it is the Cabinet Committee on the Parliamentary Affairs which decides when and how this particular meeting or the session will have to be called into. What does the Constitution say? The Constitution about these special sessions does not define about it, but when you go back and look into the budget session and other sessions, we have these. So the thing is that when we consider the Constitution of India, when we speak about the Indian Parliament, we have three sessions: budget session, then what we have is the winter session, and then what we have is the monsoon session. Is there a session called a special session? No, this is not defined in the Constitution of India. However, it is the Cabinet Committee on the Parliamentary Affairs which will decide on it. So when we speak about these sessions, how did it come into picture? So when we speak about these sessions, the Constitution specifies that 6 months should not elapse between the parliamentary sessions. This provision is a colonial legacy. The framers of the Constitution borrowed it from the Government of India Act of 1935. It allowed the British Governor General to call a session of the central legislature at its discretion, requiring that the gap between two sessions should not be more than 12 months. When did it originate? This has been taken from the Government of India Act of 1935. Currently, when you look at the Constitution of India, it says that between two sessions, let's say for example there is one session, the one session has completed, so there is a gap that can be given. The gap that can be given from one session to another is maximum about 6 months. This before pre-independence was about 12 months. But this has been changed after the independence, and now it is 6 months. So if let's suppose there is one session that ends in the month of June, so till December you may not have a session, so a 6-month gap period can be given. But immediately after that, what we have is a session that has to compulsorily take place. So what is the maximum time gap that can be given? The maximum time gap that can happen between one session to another session is about 6 months. Well, whenever we speak about the Constitution or the Constitution of our country or look into any of the articles, we have to look at the Constituent Assembly debates to understand the original intent of the constitutional makers. When it comes to the Constitution, you have two kinds of approaches. What are these two kinds of approaches? One is called as original intent approach. The other is what is called as the living tree approach. What is this original intent approach? Original intent approach basically says that you have the Constituent Assembly and the Parliament and the debaters and the number of people who are part of it. So these people discuss the Constitution at length and breadth and into every clause and section. So whenever you speak about original intent theory of the Constitution, it basically gives an idea that you have the Constitution makers, you had people who are part of the Constituent Assembly, they had an original intent and an objective towards the introduction of an article. For example, when you look at Article 21, it speaks about right to life and personal liberty. Was right to privacy part of Article 21 in 1947 and much prior to it when Constituent Assembly was deciding it? No, it wasn't part of it. Right to privacy, though it became part of it in the year 2017 when the Supreme Court of India decided so, but then was it part of the original intent of the Constituent Assembly debates? No, it wasn't. So when you speak about original intent, the idea of original intent approach of the Constitution is that you have the Constitution of India, you have the article of the Constitution of India. Why did the constitutional makers come up with that particular article? For example, we have Article 17 of the Indian Constitution. The Article 17 of the Indian Constitution basically speaks about that there will be no untouchability, and this untouchability is basically on the parameters of caste and the parameters of untouchability which has been seen in India. But when you look at Article 17 of late, there have been couple of judgments of the Supreme Court of India which has taken this untouchability with respect to certain aspects of transgender where they are being treated as untouchable because they are not giving dignity to their life and dignity. And at the same time, in few aspects with respect to the women's life as well, there have been judgments that have been passed by the Supreme Court of India where it has equated untouchability to the way the women have been treated. So the original intent was only with respect to the caste, but what we have is changes that have been taking place. This change that have been taking place is called as the living tree approach. So the original intent of Article 21 is basically speaking about the right to life and personal liberty. Right to privacy was not present. So the original intent is right to life, but the enhanced part, that is what is called as living tree approach. So the living tree approach basically goes on to say, as we evolve, as we move with changing times, we have to change and reinterpret the Constitution. So Article 21 is reinterpreted with right to privacy. That right to privacy is the living tree approach, but only right to life is the original intent approach. So that is what is called as original intent approach as well as living tree approach. Why did we discuss about it? That whenever you speak about the article, you have two specificities that you have to look at. What was the intent of the Constituent Assembly debaters? Why did they bring that particular article into the Constitution? One aspect, and at the same time with exigencies, so on and so forth. What we can bring in is new changes to the Constitution. So as we live, as there are changing times, bring new introductions. So when you look at the Constituent Assembly debates, many people said that we have to bring in as many people as possible into the Constitution, and many people will have to be brought in when it comes to the sessions of the Parliament, because only when we have more sessions they will be able to discuss, so on and so forth. And many people said that we need to have many small gap between the sessions as well. But then the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar went on to say the clause as it stands today does not prevent the legislature from being summoned more often than not, which has been provided for in the clause itself. In fact, my fear is, if I may say so, that the sessions of the Parliament would be so frequent and so lengthy that the members of the legislature would probably themselves get tired of the sessions. So what is the original intent? The original intent was to make sure that we have 6 months period. That is enough. But if they so decide, they can also change, which is the special session. So what are these special sessions? These special sessions are nothing but in case there is an event, and this particular event is about commemorating the parliamentary or the national milestones. What we will bring in is these sessions. And whenever these special sessions are called in, it is the presiding officer who will take care of these special sessions. They will call these sessions, and ultimately to commemorate parliamentary or national milestones, what we will have is these special sessions. And that is why we have the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs who has said that there will be special session in the Parliament. Apart from that, there is something called as the special sitting. What is the difference between special sitting and special session? As I told you, if it is a consecutive number of days that the parliamentarian is asked to attend the parliament, that becomes special session. If it is for a day, that is called as a special sitting. If it is for few hours, it is called as sitting. What is special sitting? We have the emergency that is imposed and proclaimed by the President of India. What if you parliamentarians feel that this particular emergency that has been introduced or proclaimed by the president is not required? So parliamentarians would come up to the parliament, they will request for a special sitting so that this is taken off and the emergency is declared null, which means to say this special sitting is with respect to the emergency, and this was added by the 44th constitutional amendment. This becomes important from the preliminary examination point of view. So what did we learn? We learned about special sitting, we learned about special session, we also understood what is original intent approach of the constitution, we also understood the living tree approach of the constitution. When you speak about this special session that is being called, many people are predicting that India's name would be changed to Bharat. When you look at Article 1 of the Indian Constitution, it says India, that is Bharat. But do you think that India's name will be changed to Bharat? What are the advantages of it? What is the procedure for changing the name of India to Bharat? What is Article 368 of the Indian Constitution? Are there countries which have changed their names from one country's name to another? For example, Ceylon, which is Sri Lanka, is now Sri Lanka. Burma has now become Myanmar. Siam has now become Thailand. So which are the other countries which have changed their names? And what are the constitutional mandates? What are the criticisms with respect to it? Everything will be discussed in a detailed lecture that I will be releasing very shortly. So the point is, let's stick to what is special session for now. But why is this special session being called? Because many feel that India's name would be changed to Bharat. So since this is a bigger topic in itself, where I will explain you what is Article 21, I will explain you what has been the Constituent Assembly debates with respect to the adaptation of the name. Should it be India? Should it be something like Bharat? Should it be something like Hindustan? What was the compromise that was reached? What has the Supreme Court said? There have been public interest litigations that have been filed in the Supreme Court to declare India as Bharat. What has the Supreme Court said? And we will also take a look at how the Constitution can be brought about a change. So do we require an amendment? What type of amendment? Simple or special? All of it, every nuance of it will be discussed in a detailed video which will be uploaded shortly with respect to India versus Bharat debate, India becoming Bharat debate, and all those discussions will be released as part of a separate video. As of now, you understand this part of special session. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about pollution. The article goes on to say that what we are witnessing in the country as well as at the global level is increasing cases of pollution. So in order to overcome the pollution, what we have is one such day which has been marked as the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. This article currently goes on to say that when you look into the data, what we are currently witnessing is massive level of pollution that the global community is seeing. Because of this, what we are also witnessing is the health related issues to the people. The number of people who have been dying or their age reduced with respect to the pollution is also increasing. This is where the author brings into picture the data and the statistics. Global health statistics reveal a disturbing scenario with lung cancer claiming 10 million deaths worldwide in 2020 as stated in the World Health Organization fact sheet published in 2023. How many people may have issues with respect to cancer? It is 10 million people because of pollution. And then this could soar by another 3.2 million by 2050. According to a report, mapping of global, regional and national incidence mortality and mortality to incidence ratio of lung cancer in 2020 and 2050, and at the same time, we have South Asia, which is home to 2 billion people, is also home to 9 of the world's 10 most polluted cities, including Delhi, where the air quality continues to pose a perilous long-term threat, putting its inhabitants at risk each day. This gives rise to more number of health related issues like the lung cancer, cardiovascular disorders, respiratory ailments, mental health issues continues to destroy people as well. We have the Supreme Court of India, which has also defined Delhi as a gas chamber. We have Delhi's air, a lethal mix of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide, along with high particulate matter of 2.5, carbon monoxide, ozone, and this deprives about 30 million residents of their human right to breathe clean air. This basically means that air pollution is significantly increasing in the country. In order to overcome all these issues, what we have is couple of steps that have been taken by countries globally. Cities such as Ljubljana, Slovenia, Accra, Ghana, Medellin epitomize the power of prioritizing human health and environmental sustainability. So, what are the steps that they have taken? Car-free zones in those areas. For example, in certain pockets of the cities, there will be no pollution whatsoever. There will be car-free zones and only pollution-free vehicles will be used. Green spaces which are meant for the cities. Smart urban designs, electrified public transportation, nature-based solutions, innovative biotechnology have come up, and these are some of the measures that have been taken as well. In line with it, there are also children who are taking up the responsibility of sustainability, and as part of the United Nations, September 7 is being called as the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. What is the theme for the year 2023? The theme for the year 2023 is Together for Clean Air. The theme for 4th Annual International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, Together for Clean Air, highlights the urgent need for stronger partnerships, increased investment, and shared air responsibility for overcoming the air pollution. So this is the theme for the year 2023. So basically, in order to overcome the issues of air pollution, what we have to do is come together. All of us will have to join hands together. All the stakeholders will have to come together. The government, the private sector, the civil society, and an awareness has to be built, is what is this article all about. We have been discussing about these issues like pollution for a very long period of time. All that you have to do is just skim through this article where there are some important relevant statistics. These statistics can become the fodder for your mains answer writing. An important point from the examination point of view is the International Day for Clean Air for Blue Skies, which we have currently discussed. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Bridging the Malnutrition Gap the Bemetara Way. What is this article speaking about? The article here is speaking about malnutrition in pockets of our country. Despite efforts that have been taken by the government, despite efforts that have been taken by the NGOs, despite efforts taken by the civil society, there continues to be the issue of malnutrition. In order to overcome this malnutrition, we have taken a couple of steps in the past, but these steps are not enough, and at the same time, these steps that have been taken are enough, but at the same time, what we have to focus is on counseling. So this article primarily lays its emphasis, primarily brings into picture what is called as the nutritional counseling. What is this nutritional counseling is what is this article all about. As of now, when it comes to the government of India, it has taken number of measures to reduce malnutrition. What are these measures? Let's say, for example, for the school children, what we have is the midday meal scheme program. And at the adult level, there has been number of state governments which has also opened up the public distribution system. What we are able to provide is free supply of few items like the rice, wheat and the cereals. We have also been providing ready to eat packets and hot meals, and these are provided by the Anganwadi centers through the Poshan program. So what are the three major programs that we have taken? One is the midday meal scheme for the children. This midday meal scheme will provide healthy, nutritious food to the children, and at the same time, we are also bringing the children towards the school as well. Once there is this midday meal scheme that has started, it has also increased the attendance level at the school level as well. So the first factor is the midday meal scheme. The second scheme is the PDA scheme, that is the public distribution system, where we have been able to provide the free crops like the rice, wheat and the cereals. The third happens to be ready to eat packets that have been provided to the people by the Anganwadi centers. In fact, there have been couple of other states as well which has also been providing additional items like the egg, banana, protein powders, peanut, chikki and jaggery as part of their own state programs. For example, we have the Mukhyamantri Suposhan Yojana in Chhattisgarh which has been providing all these points. Added to it, we have couple of other ideas. Let's say for example, we have state providing package of food, we have state providing these coupons as well, so that people ultimately have some food items. Added to it, there is subsidized food items as well. Let's say for example, if you go to the states of Karnataka, we have what is called as the Indira canteen. What is this Indira canteen? People who are hungry, people who do not have the nutritious food, they would be able to go to Indira canteen and eat affordable food at about 5 rupees and even 10 rupees as well. Such are the number of schemes that have been taken by the state governments. Despite these efforts, what we have to do is create an awareness to the people. What if people do not know that there is Indira canteen? What if people do not know what kind of food items have to be eaten to reduce the malnutrition? The major problem is they are eating. What if they are only consuming rice? What if they are only consuming one staple food where other staple food is not consumed, and as a result there is imbalance when it comes to the diet? In order to ensure that this is communicated to the people, what we require is a constant support and an awareness to the people. So how are we bringing this awareness? Through a program called as the Jan Andolan or the social and behavior change communication. So what is Jan Andolan? Jan Andolan is people getting that awareness, and at the same time they have to be brought about with the social and the behavioral change. So I am accommodated with so and so scheme and program by the government of India. They are provided with so and so scheme and program by the state governments. How will it reach the people? So we have to engage certain section of the people, rope in the celebrities, and ultimately say the people that this is what the issue is. So in order to bring in such examples in place, we have already started number of schemes and programs, but how are we going to bring an awareness? How are we going to bring the nutritional status and increase this nutritional status? The author brings into picture what is called as the nutritional counseling. So nutritional counseling basically means we're gonna rope in the celebrities, we're gonna teach a certain section of the people who will understand the importance of the nutritional food and ultimately transmit this information, and then we will also constantly monitor as well. So nutritional counseling is just about communicating the people the best balanced diet that they can eat. This is where the author goes on to say that we have one of the districts and places in Chhattisgarh which is called as Bemetara. Bemetara in Chhattisgarh is a district in the context of malnutrition status. Situated in the fertile plains of Chhattisgarh, it is unaffected by the Naxalite activities and also because of the other activities. When you look at what's happening in the state of Chhattisgarh in this Bemetara, Pota Laika Abhiyan, which means Healthy Child Mission, translates into what is called as Healthy Child Mission, happens to be in the Chhattisgarhi language, is a nutritional counseling program. How does it work? It has technical support of the UNICEF Chhattisgarh, and here basically there are people who are trained. So from the women and the child health departments, these people have been trained on to provide nutritional counseling in the region. Every 5 days, the parents of the targeted SAM, that is medium accurate malnutrition children, are summoned and counseled. They are taught in simple Chhattisgarhi language the importance of Tiranga Bhojan. What is this Tiranga Bhojan? This is nothing but the balanced diet. They need to wash hands regularly and many other tips in place. Many harmful dietary myths and superstitions are dispelled. The progress of the targeted children is being monitored. Local leaders such as Sarpanches, Panchayat Samitis and religious heads also participate. Door-to-door events of the houses and targeted children are done in order to monitor their progress. And as I told you, whenever a particular scheme has to become successful, it is the awareness of the scheme that also matters. So what do? They
make sure that a certain section of the people in the women and health department are trained. So these trained individuals will ultimately go to houses. They will also give information to the people, and they will also dispel the myths as well. How? They would have an apprehension that if so and so food is consumed by an individual, this could lead to ill health. So there is an apprehension among people that a certain food item will not have to be consumed, so on and so forth, because they would have had certain practices in the past because of their cultural milieu in that particular region. So these individuals who are trained, these individuals who know what is the best balanced diet, will go house to house. They will communicate to the people and ultimately convince them. In fact, celebrities are roped in, sarpanches are roped in, religious heads are roped in, so that these people can also communicate, so that those section of the people will also listen. So the idea being, we have taken enough number of steps, we have enough number of programs. Despite these steps, malnutrition continues to haunt the governments in the states as well as at the central level. In order to overcome it, what we require is the nutritional counseling, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about one of the groups called as the Proud Boys. This is important from the preliminary examination point of view and also from the mains examination point of view, where there are increasing cases of right-wing politics that is taking place world over, and what we have is the extremist organization that is coming up. Formed in the run-up to 2016 US presidential elections, the Proud Boys are a far-right extremist group as classified by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The group was created by Gavin McInnes, Vice Media co-founder and former commentator. The Proud Boys are known for the opposition to the left-wing and progressive groups and their support for the former US President Donald Trump. McInnes argued that the group's existence was necessary because of the society's inability to let men be proud of Western culture, and it is an all-male group. There are no women, but you have women who are supporting this particular group. So they basically have a certain viewpoint that the left-wing organizations are wrong, that the right-wing organizations are right, and they are fighting for the right-wing organizational value system. Members of the group are often seen at rallies carrying guns and badge, and a few of them are being convicted of violent crimes against left-wing groups and activists. This group is known to show up bearing arms at right-wing and liberal-leaning protests across the United States of America. So they want to bring in an idea of free thought, they want to bring in an idea of free right-wing, and they support this very idea of Western culture as well. They are not white supremacists, but they are nothing but supporting the cause of the Western culture. Because of the activities that they have taken in the past, the Canadian government has designated the Proud Boys as a terrorist entity after US Capitol breach. So this particular event where the US Capitol was taken note of and they had conducted illegal activities in the US Capitol breach, Canadian government has declared them as a terrorist organization. So what is this declaration? By declaring the Proud Boys terror group, Canadian officials will not be able to automatically make any arrest, but they'll be able to seize their assets, prosecute the members or associates for carrying out or contributing to extreme activities, and a crime committed by anyone associated with the group can now lead to terrorism charges under the criminal law. So they would be able to confiscate their assets and ultimately freeze it, so that all these illegal terrorist related activities, extreme or activities, will not be taking up in Canada. So remember, this far-right Proud Boys leader gets 22 years for US.Congress attack in the present situation. Now let's look into the next article. This article says how unemployment is measured. The article here is primarily speaking about the measurement of unemployment. What is unemployment? How is it identified in India? And what is it that is making difficult to understand and get the unemployment statistics? We have the International Labour Organization, which defines unemployment as being out of a job, being available to take a job, and actively engaged in searching for a job. What does it mean? Let's say, for example, I am an individual. Let me take as an example so that you understand it better. I am an individual who is a student. Am I called unemployed? No, because I am still studying. I am a person who is working at house. I am a housewife. Am I called as unemployed? No. That person is not called as unemployed. What if there is a person who is looking for a job but is not able to get the job? Such a person will be called as unemployed. And a person who is constantly looking for job but there is no supply in the market, that individual whose job who is looking for is not given a supply in the market is called as an unemployed individual. Therefore, an individual who has lost work but does not look for another job is not employed. So it means that if I have lost my job but I'm not looking for the job, I'm not discovering the job, and I'm not looking for other opportunities, that is not unemployment. So an individual who has this idea that he wants a job in so and so company, is looking for it, is called as an unemployed. The labor force is defined as the sum of employed and the unemployed. Those neither employed nor unemployed, such as students and those engaged in unpaid domestic work, are considered out of the labor force. So the labor force include, it is the sum of the employed as well as the unemployed. The unemployment rate is measured as the ratio of unemployed to the labor force. This gives us the opportunity of what is unemployment rate. Now the question is, how do we define it? What is the way of calculation? The NSSO adopts two major measures for classifying the working status of individuals in India. One is the usual principal, and then there is subsidiary status, then there is something called as the weekly status. What is this principal status? Let's say, for example, there is an individual. This is calculated on a basis of 1 year period. So let's say an individual is working for about 7 months, 8 months, 9 months or 10 months on an annual basis. So it is the annual basis that an individual is work that is considered. Let's say, for example, an individual has a primary job. He has worked for about 7 months in that primary job, and after that he quits. He works in another subsidiary job. So the subsidiary status basically means that's not his primary job. He has quit that primary job. Let's say, for example, there is an engineer. An engineer has been working with Amazon or Infosys or TCS for about 7 to 8 months, and after that he's quit or he's laid off, and he starts working in a secondary job which is not his primary job, but is still seeking for an active job as a principal engineer, as a senior software engineer, as a network engineer, so on and so forth. So this individual will fall under the subsidiary status. So if we are looking into the annual basis, that is for the 365 days, the approach of identification of job is on the basis of annual level. So an individual's principal status, whether employed or employed, out of the labor force, is based on the activity that is spent for a long period of time in the previous year. A person who is not a worker according to the principal status would still be counted as employed according to UPSS if he is engaged in some activity in the subsidiary role for a period not less than 30 days. So it basically means that this particular application or the classification is for a period of 365 days. So if this individual in the previous year, an annual period, that is 1 year, is considered, and if he is not working for, let's say, 1 month or 2 months, and that is working, and that person is working as a subsidiary job, that is, he is working not as a primary principal job, in that case he is still not counted as unemployed. Thus an individual unemployed for 5 months and working for 7 months in the previous year would be considered as a worker according to the principal status, while an individual unemployed for 9 months but working for 3 months would be worked as an employee as UPSS. Then what we have is the weekly status. Weekly status is the consideration of an unemployment on a weekly basis, that is 7 days preceding the date of the survey. So this is the basis on which identification of unemployment takes place, that is on an annual basis and at the same time on the weekly basis. But what are the concerns when it comes to India? Why is this classification wrong, says the author? The situation is complicated in a developing country because decisions to search for the job are constrained by social norms. Let's say, for example, there is an woman. This woman wants to work, but she only wants to work from home. But right now she is a housewife. She's not being paid for the kind of work that she's doing at the home. So there is unpaid work. Is it taken into consideration for the unemployment statistics? No, says the author. So there is a woman. She is unpaid. She wants to work, but she only wants to work from home. So is it considered in the data and the statistics of the unemployment? No. So she is keen on working, but her data is not taken into consideration for the statistics. An individual may be employed this week but may have worked as a casual laborer last month and as a farmer for most of the year. This is again not taken into picture. So a person working in the informal sector may have a job today, he may not have a job tomorrow, he may not have a job day after tomorrow. So how are we going to consider this informal sector? This informal sector where he'll have job for one day, he'll not have the job for another day. So day to day basis he may have the job and he may not have. So how are we going to consider that? That is not reflecting in the unemployment data. In agrarian economies where individuals have access to family farms or some form of casual agrarian work, there is greater probability of finding some kind of work when compared to urban areas, which means to say there is disguised labor. What is this disguised labor? Let's say there is a piece of property. On this piece of property they are growing onions or some other vegetables. Only 3 people are enough to actually plow the field and get the output from this particular field, but there are 3 to 4 additional people who are present. These 3 to 4 people, even if they are taken off, nothing will get impacted. The output will just be the same, but because they are part of the family, because this particular plot belongs to the family, they just come and add. So disguised labor is not considered. Unemployment is not considered in the present situation. So in the rural areas they work as a family and these disguised labors are not considered in the unemployment. That is another major problem, says the author. So what did we understand? We understood what unemployment is. We understood the labor rate as well. We understood the principal and the weekly status, and we also understood that this unemployment numbers may not be right. Why? Because of all these issues that we just discussed. This is what we have to understand with respect to this article. So this is it for today. In case you're liking these videos, please do like, subscribe to our YouTube channel and share it with your fellow aspirants. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.